Hello, everyone. With it being Christmas, I just wanted to give a little something back. And as most of you know, I've written a book, and I just thought I'd go through one of the units with you that I've written about for free, really, and just show you a little bit about what the unit, what's involved in the unit, and give you a little bit of an idea of what your assessors may be looking for, right? Whether that be me or somebody else, right? So the first unit's health and safety. It's all pretty much the same. As I've said in the book, it's the same across all MVQs, right? And the way the criteria is written is a little bit blurby, like. So I thought I'd just run through the gap analysis with you, and then maybe just discuss what I would accept as evidence. Look, so first of all, then outcome one is be able to apply the relevant health and safety legislation. So identify which workplace health and safety procedures are relevant. We're looking at risk assessments and method statements, right? And working within the requirements of, right? So what you're looking for here is a fully completed five-step risk assessment, yeah, signed and dated. And you're going to explain to your assessor on the assessment that there are the five steps, what the five steps are, and give them an example that you know what a risk assessment is, how it's built, and how to use it, right? Um, an example of a risk, and how you mitigated that risk. So who might be harmed and how, and blah blah blah, right? Produce a method statement as well. So you need to know the difference between a risk assessment and a method statement. Yeah, so a risk assessment is to identify the risks and mitigate them. A method statement is more task specific. Okay, it's more about the actual job you're doing and a safe method of how you're going to do that job. So that knowing the difference between a risk assessment and a method statement is key, and producing a method statement as well. And that all ties into safe systems of work. What I like to see here is things like permits to work, permission to start work, permits to work, hot works permits, ladder permits, access equipment permits, anything like that would be come under the safe system of work, and you can produce that and discuss it with your assessor. Okay. Next section, be able to assess the work environment for hazards and identify remedial actions. So identify unsafe situations. So you could really make or find a hazard. If you're producing photographs, really, it could be like some cable across the floor. It could be a void that's not been covered on the floor that somebody could fall down. So you're really looking to give an example of what you've identified a hazard. You know that's a hazard, right? And take remedial actions. What you're going to do about it? So you're going to put a covering on the floor, or you're going to pick up the cable, or you're going to move the bin out of the way of the stairs, or whatever, right? So it's just an example of a hazard. Assess the working environment and revise work practices accordingly to take into account hazards which could cause harm, including the handle of materials, tools, and equipment. So this right here is relating to the cost regulation. So really, when you're talking about the handling and storage of materials, tools, equipment, paints, gases, glues, things like that, we're looking for the manufacturer's instructions of them. We're looking for the cost regulations. We're looking for everything we sort of really need to get involved in the storage and handling of potentially hazardous tools. Maybe some heavy tools, right, as well. Like maybe you need manual handling regulations or something like that, right? High risk hazards, I mean, sometimes you're going to get examples of these, sometimes you're not, but a high risk hazard could be something like asbestos. It could be an unlocked high voltage room. It could be a consumer unit that's not locked. It could be a hole in the floor that somebody could fall down. It could be a stairs area that's not barried off property in a loft in a new build, for example. So what you're looking for there is an example of something high risk. So the way I put this to my guys is tell me something you feel a high risk hazard would be immediate danger to life or serious injury. And what would you do about it? Would you leave it? Would you call your supervisor? Would you barrier it off? Would you make it safe? What would your actions be if you found a high risk hazard? Okay. Um, Apply measures to control health and safety hazards. So what are you doing about the hazards? Are you making barriers? Are you making warning signs, electricians at work signs? Are you using the correct PPE? And are you alerting people to any hazards? Okay. And there, select and use personal protective equipment, right? Now, this one is a bit of a contentious issue between the MVQ world. My take on PPE is it's only necessary per your risk assessment. So, for example, if you're changing a socket outlet, I wouldn't expect to see you in 5-point PP. I would always expect to see maybe definitely safety boots and knee pads as a minimum. But I wouldn't expect a helmet, goggles, and everything just to change the socket, right? But if you're on a site that's, a construction site and that's required, then that's what you've got to do. So PPE as per risk assessment, right? There's just no point in making yourself bulletproof for doing a task in an office where other people may be working as well, okay? That's demonstrating that you can use the correct PP for the job. So, for example, if you're drilling something, goggles on, and don't forget, guys, dust masks as well. Even if you're sweeping up, we need to see dust masks on, right? You've got to look after your lungs, and that's why that's in there, okay? Next outcome, then, be able to apply methods and procedures to ensure work on site is in accordance with the health and safety legislation. So, demonstrate a level of personal conduct. Um, so this is sort of demonstrating how you behave on site. It could be just a general picture of the site, like something like walkways, and enter and exit. It could be that there are certain routes you have to use, there are certain routes you can't use. So, and also you can discuss with your assessor, it's like site behavior, messing about, pranks, things like that, and that can cause accidents and that can, really damage people's health and safety on site. So that's what you're looking for there, right? Um, Apply procedures to ensure the safe use, maintenance, and storage of tools, right? So this is a good point, right? How do you store your tools and materials when you're actually on the job? They're not when you're not in the van, not in the lockup in the stores. When you're on the job, how do you store your tools and materials not to cause injury or harm to yourself or others? So we're talking about lay down areas. We're talking about storing them neatly in the corner. We're talking about storing them under the cupboard, under the stairs. We're talking about not leaving them in the middle of the room so people can fall over them, okay? Um, and the workplace policies that apply to that. Is that built into your RAMs, for example? And show an example of it if it is. Suppliers information and manufacturer's instructions. Why is it important that we as the installers need to read and understand the manufacturer's instructions of the equipment that we're fitting? Is a question that I would ask maybe. And you would give an example of manufacturer's instructions and explain that, right? Comply with information, warning, mandatory instruction, prohibition, right? So, prohibition. So, this is you knowing what sign is what. So, for example, if I said, what is a blue sign with a white background, you would then identify that as a mandatory sign. And you'd need to do that with all the different types of signs. So, what type of sign is what colour? So, provide an example of a signboard and tell your assessor what sign means what. They know then that you know what them signs mean, right? Apply procedures to ensure the safety of the work location through the correct use of guards, barriers, and notices. So, electrician at work, barriers. I don't really want to see some string across a door with a written note saying electrician, right? We want to keep this professional. You're on an MVQ, so we want like the yellow electrician at work signs. We want the barriers. We want the cones. The mine tape is fine. We can use that. But you want to make your site when you're being assessed or you're producing your evidence the best it can be. So it needs to comply with CDM regs 2015. Every site, domestic or commercial, is a building site while we're working there, whether that's for 1 minute or 10 years. So barriers, guards, warning notices, fire exit signs, um, all that type of stuff you want to have available for your photographs, for your videos, and for your on-site assessments. Okay. Use access equipment correctly. So here we've got a range of four to choose from. So ladder, tower, scaffold, MOOP, step ladder, platform. So what we like to see here is all the checks you do. So I'll just do one of them. I'm going to choose a step ladder. So we'll start at the bottom. We're going to check the rubber feet. We're going to check some flat level ground. We're going to check the rungs. We're going to check the sides. We're going to check the ladder tags. We're going to check the top of the ladder. We're going to check the manufacturer's instructions on the side of it. We're going to go through the do's and don'ts, the maximum weights, the minimum weights. What step can you go up to? Right? How do you put tools on the ladder? Is there a place on the top to put your tools? Do you have to have your tools in a belt if there's not? How do you use a ladder correctly? Right? 3 points of contact, stepping up the ladder, not leaning over. That's the type of examples we're looking for you checking and using access equipment correctly, okay? Demonstrate appropriate procedures for the safe handling, storage, and disposal of hazardous materials and products in accordance with one of the following. So this now you're going to discuss, depending on what MVQ you're on, but you're just going to discuss one of these. If you were discussing, for example, the control of noise at work regulations, you do want to say the year that the control of noise regulations came out, a little bit about the employer and the employees' responsibilities. Also, the daily action values, the minimums, the peaks, the new values, the changes. As much information about that particular regulation as you can get, so your assessor knows that you've read, you've understood it, and you've been able to relay that information. Okay, and that's really Unit 102 in a nutshell. Other MVQs might have things like site inductions in there. What's carried out in a site induction, who delivers the information, what type of information is delivered, what's the fire emergency procedures if the alarm goes off unannounced, what are the different fire extinguishers there for, what are the welfare facilities, what time you're allowed on site, how can you get off site, and what would happen if there was an explosion. All these type of things, health and safety related, you would need to evidence. Yeah, and this can be photos of muster areas, fire exits, toolbox talks, any health and safety paperwork that you get, you can take as evidence and have it all for this unit, right? So, and that's kind of how I've tried to explain this in the book for Unit 102, and I've written that down the way I feel I've just walked you now, which I've had some great feedback on. So I hope this video's helped anybody understand what's involved in Unit 102 health and safety on any of the MVQs available in the UK today, guys. So thanks very much. I hope this has helped, and if it has, drop a comment, and it'd be nice to hear your thoughts. Thank you very much.